Why is it so common for people with Tourette's and other tic disorders to feel like they are faking? What is imposter syndrome and does it relate to Tourette's? Let's find out. Welcome to boneitch. My name is Luca and I make videos about what it's like to live with Tourette's. Our channel finally got a community tab and I'm really happy with that because that means that I can make posts and polls. And one of the polls I made a few days ago was about what subject, what video you wanted me to do next. And the most votes went towards the feeling of faking Tourette's and imposter syndrome. So that's this video. If you're new here and want to learn more about Tourette's, and maybe even suggest a video topic yourself, if you subscribe and hit that notification bell, you should, if YouTube does what it's supposed to do, get notified whenever I upload a new video and also whenever I post a new poll, so you can vote on a new subject for the next video. Of course, you can also put suggestions in the comments below as well. That has not changed. Today's video is a part of a small series that I started about faking Tourette's. So if you want to learn more about that, click the card icon right there to see the playlist of the previous videos I did on this topic. Today we're going to talk about why it's so common for people with Tourette's to feel that they are faking. And if and how that relates to imposter syndrome and why I'm a bit nervous to talk about this. Because yes, I also still often feel like I'm faking my tics, and I've gotten many comments from people, many messages from people that told me that they feel the same way. And even though rationally I know that I'm not faking it, there's still this little voice in the back of my head that convinces me that I might be a fraud and people are going to find out or something like that. So even though apparently this feeling is very common, I could not find a lot of research about it. But on the other hand, there's loads of articles and talk on the internet about finding out who is faking Tourette's and about faking Tourette's. So and I think that contributes to a feeling of shame and guilt about your fears that you might be faking it. And I think that fear and guilt stops us from talking about this subject, and then this whole thing just becomes worse. And so yeah, let's try and break that cycle today, all right? Of course, all the sources and resources that I use in this video will be in the description box below. If you want to do some more further reading or do your own research, check out the links in the description box for that. So let's start with the idea of imposter syndrome, because many people will use the term imposter syndrome when talking about this feeling that they are faking Tourette's or another disorder, even though the description, the definition of that term doesn't fully cover that feeling, but let's start with the definition anyways. So what is imposter syndrome? Imposter syndrome refers to an internal experience of believing that you are not as competent as others perceive you to be. While this definition is used narrowly applied to intelligence and achievements, it has links to perfectionism and the social context. To put it simply, imposter syndrome is the experience of feeling like a phony. You feel as though at any moment you're going to be found out as a fraud, like you don't belong where you are, and that you only got there through dumb luck. So imposter syndrome is more about feeling like you don't deserve your achievements or your professional career or your social status. So that does not really cover the idea of faking your disorder, like faking your tics. But I do think that there are loads of similarities if we look at the definition a bit broader. Because in this situation, it's not so much about competence and achievements, but there's this fear of being a fraud, of being fake. And if you are diagnosed and have this feeling, then the idea of achievements could be replaced by a feeling like you don't deserve the care or the social recognition of having a known disorder or getting treatment or medication, or even feeling like there are other people that deserve care more than you do. So a part of this feeling that we are faking might come from a feeling of not being worthy of the social recognition of having a disorder. But I think that there's more to it. So let's look into what I think the reasons are that, especially with tics and Tourette's, we often feel like we might be faking. One of the most common arguments or reasons I hear why people feel that they are faking their tics is that sometimes they feel like they are ticking on purpose, even if they also do it when they're home alone by themselves. It can sometimes feel like you're doing it on purpose. It can feel like if you're doing something on purpose that you might be faking it. If you look at the definition of a tic, it's an involuntary sound or movement. But sometimes tics feel almost voluntary. And this is, I think, because many people with tic disorders often have an urge to tic. So this urge is this rising feeling that you need to tic. And there can be quite a delay between the start of this urge that starts to come and the moment that you actually tic. Some people are able to resist that urge quite long and hold in that tics quite long until they have to give in to that urge and they start ticking. But that can feel like you decided to give in, like you decided to give in to the urge, and that makes your tic voluntary. And there's actually been some research that suggests that maybe the real involuntary part of Tourette's is that urge, the urge to tic. And the tic, the movement or the sound itself is the result of that. And that makes it feel intentional. But to then say that your tics are intentional and that you're doing it on purpose is like telling someone that they can't blink and they can resist that urge quite long, but eventually they're going to give in to the urge they're going to give in to the urge to blink. And that does not mean that their need to blink was fake or that it's a completely voluntary movement or anything. So yeah, this difference between the urge to tic and the movement itself, this little delay between it, can make it feel like you're doing it on purpose. But it's a normal part of Tourette's. That's, I think, part of the reason why things like that's part of the reason I think that cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, can be so helpful for Tourette's. Because Tourette's, of course, is not a behavioral disorder, but especially in CBT, you learn to understand and anticipate the urge and then cope with it, deal with it. And because of that, tic less, have more control over your tics, have less severe tics. So yeah, there is, to some extent, some intentionality to tics, even though that feels counterintuitive because you don't want to tic. But on the other hand, the urge is so big that you need to tic. And it's that urge, that need to tic, that makes Tourette's or another tic disorder a disorder. So that is in no way a reason why you would be faking it. You are not. But it does make sense that it can feel that way. Another reason why you might feel like you're faking is because your tics might be gone for a day, a couple of hours, weeks, a month, a year even. And yeah, that can feel weird because that can feel weird and it could give you the suggestion that you might be faking it. even though it is even part of the diagnostic criteria of Tourette's and other tic disorders that these tics don't have to be there all of the time. They can come and go. It's actually so normal that it was one of the questions my neurologist asked me when I got diagnosed, that whether my tics kind of came and went like a wave, because it's such a normal part of Tourette's. So just because your tics might be gone for a couple of hours, couple of days even, it's not a sign that you're faking it, don't worry, but I understand that it can feel that way. But I think we have to be nicer to ourselves and just enjoy the moments that we don't tic, as opposed to judging ourselves because of it, all right? And another thing that I think might be a factor in the reason why we can feel like we are faking is that it's impossible to find true representation of your experience of Tourette's in another person, because every person's Tourette's is going to be different. If you are doubting yourself about some disorder, it'd be nice to look at someone else and think, this is me, this is exactly me. But with Tourette's, that's probably never going to happen because we are all so different. And sometimes it's easier to look at someone else and believe them, but be very harsh to ourselves. So if we just had someone else to mirror ourselves against, that will make it a lot easier, but that's not realistic because we are all different, and that's normal. It's part of Tourette's. Every person's experience with Tourette's is going to be different, and it's going to change all of the time. It's the only constant in having a tic disorder is that nothing is constant. So yeah, I think this whole concept is very complex. There are loads of factors that come to play with it. And if you put it all together, it's not that weird that we feel like we're faking it. I just want you to know that you are valid, no matter what. I believe you, and you are welcome in this community. I think it's important that we talk about these things, because if we feel ashamed and scared to talk about our doubts, it's only going to get bigger and bigger inside your own head. And I think we should be able to openly discuss these things without judgment, because I think we get enough judgment from the outside world. Let's be there for each other, right? So what do you think? Do you sometimes feel like you are faking your tics? What do you think the reason is for that? Let me know. Put your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to read it. Have an open discussion about this. If you thought that this video was at all helpful, please leave a like. That helps me out a lot. And if you think this video was at all helpful for someone else, don't hesitate to share it with them, because there's no use in me making these videos if this information does not reach the people that need it the most. Anyways, that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're well wherever you are. Love you all so much. See you next week. Bye.